Well, good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining our live stream, our live session tonight. This session is put together by Ophthalmology Management and is streaming live right now on Facebook and YouTube, where it will sit into perpetuity. I'm your host tonight, Matt Jensen, longtime administrator of Vance Thompson Vision here in South Dakota, but also throughout the Upper Mid and Mountain West. And within the last year have become a consultant in the advanced technology lens space. And tonight's event is sponsored by RxSight. And I'm here joined by my friend, Dr. Nick Bruns, who is prolific in his usage of the light adjustable lens in Wisconsin, just one state away. Dr. Bruns, I'm going to have you maybe share a little bit about yourself. And but before we do, I want to just give everybody kind of the background of what we're talking about tonight. Dr. Bruns does perhaps more light adjustments than definitely than most practices, but maybe of any optometrist in the country / world. And with that experience comes a lot of knowledge and wisdom. And tonight, we're going to hear from him how he utilizes that experience to talk to patients, counsel them about their options, talk to them about pricing and the difference between new technologies, and then also to really counsel them through the process of the light adjustable lens, which we know takes some time, but certainly has some benefits. So that's kind of the setting of the stage, Dr. Bruns. Maybe tell us a little bit about your practice, where you practice, and what the model is like.
Yeah, so I practice in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. My clinic partner is Dr. John Vukic. And so I guess long story short, Summit Eye Care is our clinic, and we opened cold January 2020, which was just a terrific time to start a practice with no roots really. And we kind of really jumped into the LAL because we were excited about the technology. And our practice is heavy cataract. We're a big referral practice. Probably half of our patients at least come from outside sources. Cataract refractive, LASIK, ICL, and the LAL has become a huge part of our practice. So much so that we recently implanted our 1000th lens last month. And so, like Matt said, I've kind of accumulated a huge amount of experience. If it's been done, we've done it. And if it's been seen, I've seen it. And so from there, I've learned just so much. And it's a huge part of what we do. And it's why our practice has developed into a huge thing in the Midwest here.
Yeah, well, and our experience is similar, although it's across a lot of states and a lot of doctors. So no one single optometrist has had the experience that you have with that volume. So it's going to be fun to hear your perspective, and that's what I want to get to right now. You know, we talk about light adjustability, and an adjustable lens for implant vision correction for cataract surgery, such an important thing. How do you describe adjustability when it comes to cataract surgery?
Well, I describe it to patients as options, and everybody likes options. So you can either describe a lens as being a fixed lens, a lens that you implant and you're kind of just, forced to deal with the consequences, whether you have a refractive mist or you have this sort of optical noise that comes with some of our depth of focus or multifocal lenses, or you can have an adjustable lens. And what I mean by adjustable, adjustable in and of itself means one thing, but adjustability is the ability to change the lens to fit the patient. With traditional cataract surgery and other premium lenses, you're kind of forced to fit the patient to the lens. You implant the lens, you kind of have to deal with the consequences, whether they be good or bad. You kind of are forced to sort of convince the patient that they're happy, when in reality, there's always some level of dissatisfaction. Often. And I've experienced that being in cataract surgery and premium cataract surgery my entire career. So adjustability, now we can take that lens and tailor it to what the patient actually needs it to be. And you have to remember when you talk to patients pre-op that you're dealing with a world that they don't know yet. This post-operative world is really theoretical. They don't quite understand it because they're looking through a cataract. The question of how do you want to use your eyes is such a foreign concept because you don't really think about that, right? Vision is so passive, you shouldn't have to think about how you want to use your eyes. They just want to be able to see. Now, taking that from theoretical to reality, when you actually put the lens in and now, okay, no more cataract. Let's talk about what we can do with this lens and how we can make it fit what you need it to be. It becomes much more of a real tangible experience for these patients. And that's kind of where I love taking it.
Well, and you bring up a good point that there is some level of dissatisfaction, and some listeners, some watchers might say, but wait a second, cataract surgery is like the most commonly performed surgery on earth. It's one of the most successful. Is there really a high level of dissatisfaction? And I think, in the practices that I worked with and now consult with, they say things like, well, they don't know what their dissatisfaction is going to be. It's a really successful procedure because the cloudy lens is removed. But, the conversation about how much they want to do without glasses after surgery is, like you said, pretty foreign to them. And they get a couple of weeks down the road, and whether it's effective lens position or all those other things, they really do have a high amount of preference now that their vision is clear. They want it to be just so. And the just so part is where adjustability comes in and makes this a unique technology. So I'm glad you brought that up. Now, if you don't mind, I want to transition to some of what you see in the lane after the surgery. Talk about quality of vision with the light adjustable lens, even just aside from adjustability. How is the quality of vision? How does it stack up?
The quality of vision is on par, if not better, than any lens that I've had, and whether that be a monofocal or any of the premium lenses, a toric. You're basically taking a patient to their absolute macular potential. There's no dysphotopsias, there's no glare, there's no rings, starbursting. You really don't get that. And especially in the premium lens world, that doesn't exist. A lot of these lenses do have some of that. But with this, the quality of vision is just impeccable. So, naturally this draws the very type A individual, our pilots, our engineers, and those patients used to scare me a little bit when they come in. You're just a little bit, I don't know if you're going to like this because of what as the doctor. But with the LAL, we can confidently use this lens in those types of people because the quality of vision, there's just nothing as good at it as it. And we know that we can confidently put our stamp of approval on it.
Yeah, I think that quality of vision is really an important thing because when I talk with doctors, they talk about how, the optics, it's not diffracting light. It doesn't have any of the rings or anything like that. And I'm not speaking in technical terms because I'm, a business guy, but it doesn't have those other things that diffract light, but yet it still has such great optics. And then you get to dial it in after. It's a pretty impressive 1-2 punch. And so,
yeah, right. So you made a good point there. So it doesn't have, you're not splitting light, which is a key thing. You're not splitting light, but the quality of the vision doesn't change when you bend the lens. Because when you're doing the light treatments, you're changing the shape of the lens to match what you need it to be to change the optical profile of it. But as you go through that process, the optics don't change negatively. You're not degrading the quality of vision by inducing or taking away refractive error. So that's really important, I think, that you understand, especially if you're getting into this just now.
Yeah. So one of the things that people talk about with this technology is it's a technology used in cataract surgery where you can test drive your vision. I hear providers say that in the lane all the time. Talk to me about that nomenclature and how do you describe it? Is it similar to that?
Yeah. So test drive your vision is kind of cliche at this point, but that's reality what we're doing. So the way we do it in our clinic, we do light treatments every week, and we give them that entire week to live with a certain outcome, whether they want to be nearsighted or farsighted or however they want to set their eyes. We want to give them that time to experience life with that vision. And you don't have to give them a whole week. The FDA label says about 3 days, but we like to give them extra time because if you think about it, your life on a Tuesday is probably different than your life on a Saturday. And again, it goes back to that question of how do you want to use your eyes? You don't really know that until you live an entire calendar week, at least. And so the ability to test drive it, it really gives patients a sense of control. Which is kind of what boils down to this whole process. It's a sense of control. At the end of the day, everybody wants to have a little control, especially if you don't know anything about eye surgery. You want to have some ability to influence your own outcome, and that's just human nature. And so the ability to test drive gives that to the patient, and their feedback is incredibly important when I do their adjustments because I need to hear where they're struggling. I need to hear where they're doing well. And can we take a little bit from Paul to give to Mary? Can we kind of blend things a little bit to make it match what you need it to be? And that's where the art is. And that's the fun part of my job.
Well, and the ability to walk around for a time, a week, a couple weeks with your adjustment set at a certain distance, I think is really, it is the uniqueness of this technology. And again, I don't want to sound salesy and I'm just a business guy, but you think of buying a high definition TV and they're like, listen, take it home, watch the Super Bowl, and let us know. Come back if you want a bigger one, or if it's too small for your room, or what. I mean, there's endless analogies of what it could mean, and I think that the walking around part is so unique, and then the ability to have a few adjustments afterwards, with however long in between. But by the way, as you do that, as you have your patients, there's like the first adjustment, and sometimes is it up to 3 adjustments?
3 adjustments followed by 2 lock-ins, so up to 5 total visits.
Okay, and then how are the patients during that time frame? Are they worried? Are they like worried they're gonna, or are they kind of enjoying it? Do they come in with real preferences? How does that work inside the exam room?
So it's really fun, and I remember thinking when we started doing this 4.5 years ago that the length of time this took was going to be a turnoff. I thought people weren't going to like that idea. They weren't going to like having to take all this time to sort of get used to things before they committed to a certain outcome. In reality, people love it. Again, it goes back to the control element. I think they like to have the ability to test drive things, and oftentimes when I bring them back at their second scheduled treatment, they may want another week, and that's okay. We can give them that. We can give them the ability to live with it a little bit more. I mean, I'm here no matter what, so take your time. This is your deal. I'm just here for the ride. But it is kind of fun because patients sort of blossom through the process. They don't know me at all, right? I'm asking them to put an immense amount of trust in me, and you have no reason to know me. You have no reason to like me. But I kind of have to earn them. And I usually get them on my side for sure. If it's not before, it's at least by their second treatment. Because at that point, you kind of prove to them that this works. And it is the real deal. They come back like, holy cow, something changed here. Most of the time it's for the better. We hope it's for the better. But at least it's proof that something changed, because this does sound magical. It sounds too good to be true. But once you get them back, and I can tell when they walk in, they've kind of got this different level of, all right, you got me. Let's take the next step. And then I know I've got them, and it's great.
So the real benefit is the adjustability, like we already mentioned. And how often do you have patients actually, try a certain distance and then say, actually, you know what, I think I'll dial that back, or go back to whatever it was before, or maybe a little bit more of that? I mean, how often are they changing their minds?
Sure. I like to think at this point I've kind of gotten better at gauging where we should put them, and that just comes from experience. But it's not a problem if they do come back and they're unhappy. That's the whole idea. That's the point. If you're unhappy with it, we'll just undo it, or we'll make a change. It's kind of like reading a putt on a golf course. You don't have to get it on the first putt. You'd like to get it closer, sure, but you don't have to get that ball in on your first putt. You get 3 putts, and I like to think that I'm better at this than I am at golf, and so I don't 3-putt that often. But
3 putts, that's my style. That's where my style is. And I wasn't talking about anything like unhappiness. I just mean they try something and they're like, whoa, that wasn't, I thought I'd like that more than I do, and they come back, and am I getting that? That's kind of the point of this, is they get to
100%
try it out.
Yeah. That's fine. Right. Again, you don't have to get it right the first time. And I wouldn't say, sometimes we do, for sure. I mean, sometimes we nail it. I read the patient exactly perfectly. We want to put them at a certain scenario, and boom, we hit it. We're locking in on their second treatment. That does happen. I'd say more often than not, though, we use a second treatment to just tweak it a little bit more. And each step is just a little bit smaller, because you're kind of honing in on that final target until eventually you have a tap in. And you don't miss a tap in putt. You're just going to tap it in. Yeah. And so it is a part of it. It's a part of the process. It's a gimme. Yeah, it's a gimme. They make you putt it though with this, so you actually have to putt it. But you don't miss it. And so, but that's the nature of the game. That's the nature of it, right? You if you don't like it, just undo it, or maybe take a different direction if you want to. And patients are allowed to do that. That's part of the encouragement of the process.
So I want to ask 2 more questions, but we'll have to keep them brief because of our time. But one, I want to just talk about the energy that this brings your practice, because it seems like, I mean, it seems otherworldly, this technology. And talk to me about the energy it brings your team and the word of mouth with patients. What are you experiencing?
Yeah, so our staff, I mean, these patients are the happiest patients. And a lot of our staff have worked in ophthalmology before. So again, they know that sort of level of dissatisfaction from some patients with other premium lenses. We know that. They know it as well as I do. And so once we started to really adopt this, and they kind of see that these patients are, oh, they're actually really happy, it just elevates the entire energy in the office. And so lock-in day, when we have patients who are here for their final lock-in, it's kind of a celebration. I mean, we really try to make a big deal about it. And I've talked to people about this, sort of like when I had braces when I was a kid. You know, when I had my braces for those 2 years between those awkward, they're 13 and through 15 years old. And when I got them taken off, I remember it was a big celebration. You know, the doctor was happy, and I remember that. And so we try to recreate that for these patients, because it is a process. You know, I can't lie. It does take weeks to months to get this right. But once we get it right, this is a for the rest of your life type of deal. And so our staff gets in on that just as much as the patients. And usually the patients have a family member there who's driven them, and they're part of it too. And so we make it a big deal.
Yeah, and it takes some time, but they're participating in it, so it's active.
Right.
You know, it's not like they're just in a waiting room, right? They're
Right.
they're thinking about it, and as they're using their vision, and the glasses are kind of a nice prompt. I've heard from patients
Mhm.
that of like, okay, so I'm noticing that I've got these, you know, protective lenses on, and so it's a cue for me to, how am I enjoying my vision right now? And
Right.
for more on that, by the way, I mean, what's also fun in the marketplace is to watch how many celebrities are showing up with these
Yeah.
light adjustable lens glasses. You know, if you watch the
Yeah.
Oscars, things like that, it's becoming a thing, which is kind of fun to see in the wild. My
It
last
is.
question for you, Nick, and first of all, this is so fun to do with you because we've become good friends over doing a lot of these together, and I learn a lot from you. But there's a lot of doctors who maybe they've got the LDD, but they're not doing the volume because they're, you know, afraid of what it will do to the flow of their practice, right? Because they're taking a lot of the front end work and moving it to the back end. But then there's also some doctors still on the sidelines thinking, I don't know, if I, you know, do I need to? There's other technologies out there. Give me 30 seconds of what you'd say to both. What do you say to the doctor who has it and isn't maximizing it? And what do you say to the doctor and team who hasn't taken the plunge yet?
So to the first doctor, I would just ask why. You know, I think the water's warm. There's enough doctors that have taken this plunge. I mean, if you look at how many doctors are now doing this across the country, it's no longer really new. I mean, it is growing at an exponential rate. So if you're not doing it, I mean, get on board. And I think you have to commit to doing a few of them, and so you can see it for yourself. The proof is in the pudding. If you do a couple of them and you do them well, like, you know, you'll be trained to do, the patients will love it. So I always tell the story about my father-in-law who had this done about a month ago, and he lives about 4 hours north of us in northern Wisconsin. And he asked, you know, where should I have my surgery done, Nick? And I've been talking to him for years. He's a type A golfer, big time golfer. And I say, well, you know, Dr. Vuvich is my clinic partner. I wouldn't trust anybody else but him. And I don't say that because he signs my paychecks. I say that because he's a fantastic surgeon. But if you come down, you're only going to get the LAL. And because I can't have you unhappy with me. And if there's one person you don't want to piss off, it's the father of your wife.
The in-laws.
So,
Yeah.
Yes, because patients come and go, but in-laws, you know, they're going to be here forever. And so we had the LAL done, and huge brownie points. It's been a huge. So I now look like the hero, and I thank RxSight for that, for the ability to
Good.
really,
Now, I'm making you switch gears here in our remaining seconds. The doctor who hasn't adopted yet at all.
So if you haven't adopted yet, I mean, the technology is just far superior than anything that we've used. And so in our clinic, we have done every other lens under the sun. I mean, we've tried them all, we've done them all. I'll say, you know, with 100% seriousness, we haven't implanted a multifocal lens in over, I want to say 2 years, because there's no reason to at this point in our clinic. Our success rate and our patient satisfaction has just overwhelmingly been high. Now, getting the logistics of it definitely takes some work. And there's a little bit of a bumpy road at the beginning, but that's with any new technology. But once you get going and you kind of develop a rhythm, as with anything with new technology, you'll see that it works.
Well, and that's where I'll kind of sign off on the comments. One of the things that I find is that practices, if they're going to take the plunge, first of all, they should, because it's a great way to get into a full-blown refractive program for the cost of the LDD. And so then you'll be toe to toe with everybody else who has other refractive offerings. But when you do, and even for doctors who haven't fully taken the plunge, even though they have the LDD, start doing it with a cohort, where you've got 6 to 10 patients in, that you're doing on the same day. And so you can roughly schedule their light adjustments at roughly the same time, and they're coming back in the same waves. And so you can dedicate a few hours of your clinic to those folks instead of just having one at a time come in and be the aberration in the schedule. And I think that that's a good way to really get to know the program and then build your program around that, rather than have it be an outlier. Listen, Nick, we could keep going, and we have before, so we're out of time. For those of you who have more questions, first of all, you can always go to RxSight.com. Your account managers and sales folks for RxSight are there to answer your questions as well. Ophthalmology Management is a good resource. They've got great articles that are coming out all the time on how to implement technologies like this. And you can find this session on YouTube Live and Facebook Live under Ophthalmology Management. We really want to thank you all for joining us live. And Dr. Nick, thanks for joining us. RxSight, thanks for sponsoring.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.